Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Tyranny with me, Bring It On. Off camera I spent some more time getting familiar with the game. I went over versus talent trees. She only has two. Looks like one focusing on dual wielding and one focusing on the bow. I'm probably going to go the dual wield route because I like a good melee build. I also compared the weapons I started the game with to what she has equipped. They are both worse, in my opinion, but I was tempted to give her phalanx for that passive, where on a crit she gets she gives everyone around her a +5 to parry, and because it has greater range. But I thought about it, I don't think the bonus range on phalanx is going to matter because if she's dual wielding, she'll still have to get close to use her other weapon. So no reason for that. Also, these are unique. Red Rivers, minor parrying, it gives her just +4 to parry. Red Rivers has a delicate curve intended to shear through flesh and parry incoming attacks. The bronze is well preserved, and the hide wrappings around the grip have been lovingly reapplied to compensate for the rigors of daily use. And Gutseeker, just a flat +4 to accuracy. The hook of this weapon is seen the most evident use, likely from repeated instances of drawing Gutseeker up from a victim's bowels and catching on the lower rib cage. In spite of its weathered appearance, the blade has been sharpened and maintained with a keener edge than most Scarlet Chorus weapons can boast. I am going to read all unique flavor text for items because I love flavor text. I am a sucker for flavor text. So, Bloody Scarlet Fury armor. Only Verse can equip this. This leather armor is a unique interpretation of the Scarlet Fury uniform. It shows evidence of heavy use. New stitches and custom tailoring look designed to maximize flexibility while sacrificing nothing of the intended protection. Verse has sewn trinkets among the padding with care. Snippets of hair, fur, and claw. Pieces of iron and bronze, all likely trophies of previous kills. Bloody Scarlet Fury boots. The soles of Verse's boots are caked with blood and look to have been mended or replaced several times over. She has taken the liberty of sewing in a makeshift lining to hide a concealed weapon, though at present it's empty. And Bloody Scarlet Fury leather gauntlets. Verse's gloves are padded and worn, faded along with the palm from clutching weapons under tense circumstances. Scrape marks in the leather suggest she dragged them along the edges of a sharp stone to wear down the material for comfort and ease of motion. Alright, so now for her abilities. This one here, Skewer, she attacks with both weapons at the same time, doing extra damage and getting armor penetration. And then Burning Iron, she shoots her bow and catches somebody on fire for extra damage. Pretty straightforward. And then she has Blood-Soaked Stone, which is a combo with my main character. We knock a target prone and do a bunch of damage. So it is actually, I do a ton of damage. So, also I realized I forgot to try out my War Mace last time, so we'll equip that just so I don't forget. And I think that's all I went over off camera. Alright, let's talk to Aurora. A Fate Binder. Aurora salutes as you approach. We're honored by your presence. Need something? What's the situation here in Vendrian's Well? The Oathbreakers hold the citadel at the heart of the valley, the one built around the base of the spire. Aurora points east toward the tower in the distance. The Matani River has been our largest headache during the siege. It's unsafe for armored troops to ford, save for at key locations. The enemy knows this as well as we do. I know it'd be a lot farther along if the Scarlet Chorus used its alleged strength in numbers to ford the river themselves and overwhelm the enemy. Aurora looks at Verse with a disapproving air. As it is, we must take the valley slowly and advance the disfavored bulwark, since that's where the real work gets done. Because all it takes is numbers to cross a river under a hail of arrows. If the disfavored were quicker to act, maybe the Vendrian Guard wouldn't be so trained up to face us. There has been a lack of cooperation, so she is right in that regard. So Verse has a point. There's been a lack of cooperation here. On both sides, I assure you. We get nowhere by bickering over the failings of past battles. How long have you been with the disfavored? 7 years. She pauses to count on her fingers. 2 seasons, mayhap a handful of days. I trained at Fort Resolution a bit before the Conquest. Compared to the commanders you find around camp or stationed at Iron Hearth, that makes me one of the young bloods. This has been a long and grueling campaign, but the end is in sight. We'll soon have the Oathbreakers back under control. Then we can rest, retrain, and even cycle out troops so we can see our families again. What can you tell me of the Avengerian Guard? They're the last gasp of the Younger Realms. Among them are warriors that escaped the Bastard City's siege, a few refugees from other victories, and a bunch of Avengerian locals with delusions of independence. The Southern Wastrels cannot match our iron, nor the Chorus's numbers. What Unteridus gave them the nerve to rise up and ask for a second helping of battle is anyone's guess. Have you seen anything interesting during the war? I once saw a forge-bound artisan set himself on fire. Occupational hazard. That was an unpleasant day. The first of many, to be honest. Alright, so forge-bound. The forge-bound are mage smiths sworn to Kyros' service, though the operations and the tiers are overseen by Tunon and his court of fate-binders. Each forge-bound uses magic as a tool to augment their personal craft, most commonly smelting and metalworking, but carpenters, tailors, and tanners are found in their ranks. And each mage strives to create that which is impossible with mundane hands. And most notably, the forge-bound are the sole masters of ironworking in the known world. Using spells of fire resistance to wade into the forge fires, the forge-bound can work iron at temperatures no other forge can match, and with a hands-on touch that no mundane smith could hope to achieve. Because of this vital skill, the forge-bound are considered a strategic war asset, their lives regimented and controlled so that the forges may churn out iron arms and armor without debate, delay, or distraction. I wasn't there to watch you proclaim the Edict of Storms, but I saw the devastation hit Stalwart, and take up several cohorts of disfavored with it. She squeezes her eyes shut and shakes her head. Alright, carry on. Let's talk to
You
Verse.
have my attention. Spit out whatever you have to say.
We have one level of fear. Verse eyeballs you with suspicion. I should probably look at my reputation in the character sheet.
What do you need?
Are you a spy for the Voices of Nerat? Verse regards you with an unreadable expression. Her mismatched eyes look at each of yours in turn. Insufficient reputation. Huh. I mean, does it even matter? You have to decide for yourself whether or not I'm worth trusting. Is keeping me along worth the risk that I'll spill the occasional word about what you ate for breakfast? The Voice of Nerat is the Archon of Secrets, not the Archon of Honesty or Fair Dealings. If you don't assume that everyone already reports to him, you're not being careful enough. Tell me something about yourself.
If you insist. I'm a Scarlet Fury. That should raise some flags for you. It means that I'm good at killing, and more importantly, that I enjoy it. What I won't enjoy are the pleasures of funerary rites packed with weeping mourners. Someday I'll fall in battle, and then they'll roll me into a mass grave or heap me atop a shit-stained wagon. One more anonymous, knife-riddled piece of meat. Until then, I plan to take whatever I can from life and have a little fun along the way.
Well, she seems self-aware enough, so I respect that. Tell me about your life before the course. Life? What life? As far as I'm concerned, I didn't exist before the course. There was some girl on a farm wearing my face and talking with my voice, but she wasn't me. Sometimes she would sneak out at night, take a scythe, and have some fun with the livestock. Our shared interests began and ended there. When the Scarlet Chorus swept through my village on their long trek from the Bastard City, that's when I finally woke up. I buried my old life, took red vengeance on anyone who'd wronged me, and found the freedom I could only dream was out there. What of your parents? My mother ran a successful farm, and I worked it for a number of years before I found the Chorus. She was a hard, bitter woman, acted like the world owed her something. She never talked about my father, but I figured out a thing or two about him later on. He was a merchant from the Northern Empire who took a liking to her, and she him. He stayed around only long enough to get what he wanted. But never mind him. My mother never had what you would call taste, so he couldn't have been terribly influential to me if he did stick around. Do you ever wish you could do things over, and up somewhere other than Kyros' army? That's as naive a question as I've ever heard. Kyros is everywhere. If you aren't in the Overlord's army, you're being trampled by it. Of course, I could have labored on the family farm into my maturing years, married some dolt and littered him a nursery of squealing piglets. Having my body torn to pieces by smaller versions of me sounds like fun. Then one day, when I decided enough was enough, I'd slit my husband's throat over breakfast and run off to join the chorus anyway. My way saved a lot of time. First smooths back the feathers of her in her hair and shakes her head with a smile. You're a killer. Better to stick with the chorus. At least you understand. The chorus praises and rewards the things inside me that I would suppress in civilized company. Life is too short to repress every desire, right? Especially if I have anything to say about it. How did you get conscripted? How did I think you have the wrong idea about me. The chorus didn't take me as a sobbing maid. I strode into their camp and enlisted. Someone tossed me a dented blade. I lived through initiation, spent a week butchering my neighbors, and moved on with my new kin. I didn't waste time with goodbyes. My mother had long since died, and the rest of my family were louses. The girl I used to be, even she knew she was worth more than all of them combined. What is the significance of your feathers? Insufficient reputation. Oh, I don't tell that story to just anyone. You have to butter me up before I get into the really intimate details. I have enough questions about your past. Oh, alright, we still have a lot to talk about. That suits me just fine. I'm not much for comparing family histories if I can avoid it. Tell me about your time with the Scarlet Chorus.
The Scarlet Chorus is mostly for madmen and peasants with rusty daggers, but it's also a little niche of freedom that I never had. Once I survived training and met my Scarlet Fury sisters, I saw a different side of the howling mob.
Tell me about your training.
For new recruits shoved to the front lines, training means surviving the first battle. Anything beyond that is for the fighters who show potential, whether as blade dancers or arcane madmen. There's nothing in the world like getting put through the paces as a Scarlet Fury. Every day is a test of your commitment and passion. Failure means death. The first few weeks were the hardest, but also the most rewarding. I earned my name, picked up some quality weapons, and met my sisters.
Alright, tell me about the Scarlet Furies.
The elite fighters of the Scarlet Chorus. Your typical Horde recruit fights with a rusty spoon and a chip on his shoulder, but the Scarlet Furies are, well, different. We focus our madness. We coordinate, we kill, we dance. It's like art. Imagine a sculpture that twisted in weird, beautiful angles, and then gutted you too fast for you to realize what was happening.
Let's butter her up because there's some things I want to talk to her about that I don't have the reputation for yet, so it sounds wonderful.
It is, as I remind myself all the time. The most important day of my life was when the voices of Nerat recognized my potential and sent me to Scarlet Fury training.
You earned your name. You think a simple farmer from the Tiers would name her child a verse? I suggest you visit my old village. Most of them are walking around with surnames like Barrel or Fish. Not the most creative bunch. She smirks and shakes her head. The chorus takes your name away. Whoever you were before, you aren't that person anymore. Then you earn back a name through great deeds, usually murderous ones. And that's why you see choirmen walking around with names like Stinkmouse or Face First. There's probably a good reason for it. The voices Nerat gave me this name. When the Scarlet Chorus runs howling into battle, he doesn't hear war. He hears a symphony. When I fight with blade or bow, he told me that my music stands out louder than anyone else's. It contains too many parts to be easily defined. When you least suspect it, the Arcana secrets can be downright charming. What's your real name? Oh, that question isn't worthy of either of us, but I'll entertain it out of pity. You already know me by my real name. It's Verse. Are you looking for whatever arbitrary collection of letters and sounds my mother thought was appropriate when she didn't even know me? Then you're out of luck. I buried that name a long ago. A long time ago? Long by my standards, anyway. Tell me about your weapon skills. When I was just a kid, it didn't take me long to realize I was a natural. I could pick up a rusty kitchen knife and skewer a rat from across the room. The Scarlet Chorus gave me opportunities to further educate myself. My sisters were always a bit surprised by how quickly I took to different fighting styles. She frowns for a moment, and then shakes off whatever she wanted to say. Now back to my questions about the Scarlet Chorus.
What do you need to know?
Before, you hesitated when you brought up your fighting styles. Why? Not enough reputation or lore, darn. So if that's any of your business, if I wanted to say something, you would have heard it. Don't assume that I'm holding back. You fight for me, do you not? Tell me. I suppose that's true. Like any competent gang boss, you want to know if your second in command is losing her nerve. Seems fair enough. I mentioned before that I'm good at picking up different weapons and fighting techniques. The truth is, I'm better than good. I could flay a man so cleanly that I'd leave a single strip of skin behind. He wouldn't even need to be tied down. That was one of the first things I discovered about myself after joining the Scarlet Chorus. The voices in the rot recognized it in me as well, which is why he singled me out for Scarlet Fury training. Have you tried that flaying trick before? Let's just say that when we ran out of canvas for pitching tents, the fifth eye handed me a knife and pointed me to the prison pens. She winks. My sisters were the masters of their fighting forms, but since they died, my style has changed. Almost like I can kill as they did. I could pick up a bow, a lance, anything really. I could tear someone to pieces with a weapon that I only watch my sisters use. I don't know what it could mean, and that worries me. So she's like a taskmaster. Who are your sisters? Who were they would be more appropriate. 3 Whispers, Red Geyser, and Seeking. Seeking Sheath. Best fighters I ever met. There wasn't a foe we couldn't take down together. Our fighting styles complemented perfectly, so we divided up the killing work like bards sharing a song. At least we used to. She presents a solemn salute. Alright, tell me about 3 Whispers. She is as calm as the surface of a pond, and light on her feet. When the one foe tripped and fell on their own blade due to Whisper's crafty footwork. First lets her gaze slip away from you as fleeting moments of sorrow steals her attention. Tell me about Red Geyser. A one-woman siegebreaker. She would launch herself at her foes like a battering ram. Not even a disfavored phalanx could have withstood that dumb, suicidal wench. Kyros' eyes, but she was something to behold. First slams her fist into her palm. Tell me about Seeking Sheath. That girl could pass a spear through 12 rings from the far side of a battlefield. Kyros helped any foes who approached her marching single file. She made a game of splitting as many soldiers as possible on the same javelin. And what happened to them? We were scouting around Vendrian's well during the siege, back when we only suspected the guard of organizing in secret. My sisters and I came upon a group of them, or Kyros knows, maybe they found us. No one said anything. We drew iron and bronze. That was when everything went wrong. I was supposed to take point and occupy the guard with a dance of blade work. Something disorienting while my sisters picked their marks. I hesitated. I lost my nerve. Instead of rushing the Oathbreakers, I froze with my weapon drawn. My sisters fought on without me, but they were off balance, like whatever I had was catching. They died. I lived. My sisters were relying on me to lead the dance, and I failed them. Yeah, your actions are inexcusable for a fighter of your station. You're absolutely right. If I had witnessed the same in one of my sisters, I might have even killed her for endangering the rest of us. Good thing for me that they didn't get the chance. She chuckles, but there's no humor in it. Hesitation is a rot. It's unbecoming of any chorus member, and unheard of in a Scarlet Fury. I would cut it from my body and cauterize the wound if only I knew its source. She grimaces once more and turns inward, contemplating. Any thoughts on the topic? Or are we just here to open old wounds? Any idea why you lost your nerve in battle? I wish I had an explanation. For the first time, I lost the dance. The Song of Murder drew in silent. Instead, there was only rigid, organized control. I have more questions about your sisters. No, I don't.
What do you need to know?
Who are the Scarlet Chorus leaders? Well, the Voices of Nerat is the spider at the center of the web. He acts like the army belongs to him, and he only lends it to Kyros because it suits his purposes. Both of which are true. The rest are all offshoots of the Voices, like the Fifth Eye. Once you get down to the rank and file, the Scarlet Chorus organize around a motley bunch of gang bosses who call the shots. What do you want to know? Tell me about the voice. There's so much dialogue with her, which is good though because this is a world I'm not familiar with, so I'm enjoying the lore. Tell me about the Voices of Nerat. He's a madman, but they never stopped me from following his orders. Even in a legion as cutthroat as the Chorus, you know better than to get on the Voice's bad side. People who cross him, or just people he meets, don't tend to survive the experience. If he ever seems disorganized or lost, it's because he's channeling one of the personalities he's devoured over the past. His mannerisms shift over to someone else, someone who's probably long since dead. Better to die than become part of the Voices. So through powers you can't begin to understand, the Voice of Nerat steals the minds and knowledge of his victims. You know this happens often during the campaign against the Tears. What he gains from this ability, beyond his apparent madness, is anyone's guess. You know better than to ask him about it directly. What makes the Voices of Nerat so powerful? He's the Archon of Secrets, and he didn't earn that title lightly. People say that he knows more than every sage in the Tears combined, that he can think 1,000 steps ahead of the other Archons. It'd be putting it lightly to say he's never alone under that disapproving helmet of his. If you make secrets your business, I guess having people constantly whisper in your ear is a good thing. I usually want people to shut up, but to each their own. Tell me about the Fifth Eye. A walking nightmare, that one. I couldn't begin to guess who lives under that armor and speaks with that reedy voice, but I'll tell you what I know. When your world is built on secrets, it pays to have a few extra eyes. The Voices of Nerat has eyes in abundance, some that he keeps close, and others that he sends out into the wilderness. Whoever the Fifth Eye was before he came into the Archon's service, now he's just a half-mad, jabbering speech hole. A bodily function. In other words, an eye. Wait, Nerat's eyes are people? Maybe they used to be people. Whatever they were, they're eyes now. Folks like to whisper that the Voices of Nerat takes his servants and cuts out all the extra parts that they don't need. She makes a quick snipping gesture with her fingers. It's a lot of reading. I once heard the Voices in the Fifth Eye in a tent together. The Voices kept screaming redundancies, redundancies. Every time another gout of blood would spray on the canvas walls. I can't even guess what he was cutting out. How many eyes does the Archon of Secrets have? The number keeps changing, either because it grows or because rumors don't mean crap. 3, 7, 19. Some even say that all of us are eyes, and we don't even know it. She shakes her head in thoughtful disapproval. It's one of those questions that drives you mad if you allow yourself to think about it for too long. Hey, you could be one of Tunon's eyes, but you never thought of that. Alright, back to the Scarlet Chorus leaders. Tell me about the gang bosses. A boss is anyone who can rally enough support to kill the previous boss. They cling to command until someone gets wise and stabs them in the back. Tipcap leads the Filthy Lambs. Lox leads the Rusted Harps. Sharp used to lead the Bone Boys. Couldn't say where he ended up after they broke his legs. Waterwheel orders around the Hairy Hunters. Halls for Crap leads the Lazy Malkins. Then Scurvy Queen, Finger Food, and Wild Gash collectively lead the Ladies of Perpetual Strangulation. I'm forgetting at least a dozen more. I've even led a gang or two in my day. They never survive very long, so no point in getting attached. You led a gang? Don't act so surprised. I can crack a whip better than any of those daisies at the disfavored labor camps. But I was never that interested in the power struggle of those grunts and scabs in the middle. I wanted to stand on the top like an apex predator. Here I am. So when I got tired of a gang, I disbanded and let the other bosses fight over the new recruits. That much amused me, at least. Some of my old mates are still alive and hanging around wherever they ended up. Alright, back to the Scarlet Chorus. Something else.
What do you need to know?
Oh boy, I have thoughts about your combat abilities.
Do you now? Call me intrigued. You already know that I memorized the moves of my Scarlet Fury sisters. If it seems like a total mystery to me, I don't know how you could have arrived at any conclusions, but I'm open to ideas.
I'm gonna wait on this. Forget I said anything. Feeling indecisive, are we? Go on then. So how is it that you picked up your fallen sister's weapon skills? That's been on my mind for some time. I still don't have an explanation that fits. I have a few ideas, but first frowns in deep thought. Oh, okay. These are so. Here's some background checks. A Scarlet Fury share a sort of link. It's how we coordinate our dance in the heat of battle. We don't pass messages or anything, but our emotions and intentions sync up without words. She starts wearing one of her knives. After a moment, she sighs and slaps the blade back into its sheath. Go on. The one thing I always knew was that I felt this connection more keenly than my sisters did. I could pick up nuances that they missed. I could feel them from farther away. When my sisters died, I felt each of them getting yanked out of my brain like someone pulling nails from a garden. But some of their slime residue is still there. Does that make any sense? You should exploit this skill to its fullest potential. Skill? Not sure if I'd call it that. There's something parasitic about it. But I take your point. If there's an advantage to this thing I'm experiencing, I'm not above using it against our foes. No matter how you paint it, some part of my sisters broke off in me when they died, and now I'm left to deal with it. Just another day in the tears, right? Man. What are your thoughts on the disfavored? A warren of self-entitled children so wound up in delusions of honor, they're likely to hang themselves by their own high standards. I wish they had stayed in the Northern Empire where they belonged. Then we could get some real work done in the tiers. What do you think of their leader, Graven Ash? I've seen enough of that high-minded braggart to know that he's all duty. Nothing but a charismatic, broad-shouldered scarecrow. He calls himself the Archon of War, but by the way he stalls his forces waiting for a better strategy to present itself, you would think he's afraid of battle. You would think that someone more deserving would take Ash's mantle from him, but the disfavored have this cult of personality built around their great general. In their eyes, he can do no wrong. What about Ash's connection to his troops? Graven Ash protects. His soldiers keep harping on those words like they mean something. I don't deny that the disfavored can take a few extra lumps on the battlefield. It only speaks to their thick-headedness. If anything, it's only true because his soldiers place that much trust in it. I've seen the power of suggestion do stranger things to people. Could that be possible? We're talking about a man who's centuries old and wears glowing armor. You tell me. Who would you see take Ash's place? I'd rather let the disfavored sort it out among themselves. Graven Ash is this aging figurehead of what should be a constantly changing role. The right soldier needs to grow a pair and kill the old man. Kick his cane out from under him. Remind the Legion what strength looks like. The voice of Nerat changes. He's a multifaceted gem, and the Scarlet Chorus is a reflection of that beauty. If someone could rise up and strike down the voices, any of us would follow them in a heartbeat. I suppose you have a better idea how to handle the disfavored forces. Of course I do. First I'd stop babying the troops. Pain is a lesson best learned early. I conscript from the locals to bolster the front lines, because why waste your elite on the vanguard? Then I'd leave any misplaced ethics back in the Northern Empire. They're not helping Kyros' campaign anyway, so screw him. I'm split. Well, excellent. You'd make them more like the Scarlet Chorus. Would that be so wrong? The Chorus is accountable for itself in ways that the disfavored aren't. Our weak die, and the strong fight to keep their rank. The disfavored promote their waning bloodline, and discipline any soldier with the audacity to show their teeth. Though they never admit it, the disfavored need the Chorus to show them the way. Alright, back to my questions, if we must. Do you think the disfavored have a chance to succeed in the tiers? Speaking as one of the exceptions, most of the tiersmen are pushovers. The people of Stalwart seem capable enough, though I have my doubts. You might call them disfavored's best challenge. Even if they succeeded, it might be too late to redeem themselves. The Chorus have already impacted the Conquest more than the disfavored have, or likely ever will. And what are your thoughts on their battle strategies? They've really got something with that phalanx maneuver. A formation built on holding still, moving forward slowly, and hoping that no one slips in the mud. At best, the disfavored are tired of using the same tactic over and over again. At worst, the enemy knows what to expect out of them. The Scarlet Furies are dancers. We hear the music of battle and organize ourselves into works of killing art. Every fight is as hot and passionate as the last, with no room for stale routine. Let's talk about something else if we must. What do you think about, or what do you think of those who defy Kyros' authority? The Tearsmen can either fight or submit to Kyros' peace, and only one of those options captures my interest. I suppose I appreciate when they go down fighting. If they did otherwise, I would need to find another excuse to flay them. They need to understand, whether we unify the Tears under a shared banner or at the bottom of a mass graves, makes little difference to you, me, or Kyros. That's an interesting view of the Conquest. It's a pragmatic one anyway. The Scarlet Chorus caught onto the idea at the beginning of the campaign. If no one objects that we're here to carve a bloody path for grain and amusement, then by all accounts, that is our purpose. Besides, unification is such a vague concept that Kyros allows the disfavored and the Chorus to interpret it as they will. The Overlord is concerned with results. I'm happy to focus on the details, especially if that means cutting off a farmer's legs while his family watches their land burn. She smiles at a pleasing memory. While I don't agree with her work, there is no shame in taking pleasure in your work. No, there isn't. Fatebinder. I suspect they were going to make something great together. A line of bodies stretching as far as the old walls. It's going to be beautiful. She looks at you with renewed interest. Did you fight at any notable battles? I spent some time in Azure toward the end of the war. Beastmen ripped my unit apart. We thought they might be working under Cairn's orders, but we never found out for sure. Let's change the subject. Are you a spy? Let's see. Hey, it worked! Got enough loyalty with her to ask if she was a spy. Subverse loyalty 3. I was. To be perfectly fair, I think I've been more or less transparent about it. But that doesn't change anything about why I chose to travel with you. If I didn't want to, I'd just leave. What did the voices want to know? He never told me. He just said to keep an eye on you, but there's an implication that I'd have an opportunity to report in, as if I would have. More likely he would have stolen my mind and learned everything I knew, just to make sure I didn't leave anything out. So if you have any reservations about my discretion, keep that in mind. You're just doing your job. No harm. Well, I'm grateful that we don't have to make a big deal about it, and waste our time wondering if we can ever trust each other again. Honestly, it's refreshing. There was another...
The Scarlet Chorus is mostly for madmen. What do you need to know? If you insist. What I won't enjoy are the pleasures of funerary...
There we go. Significance of her feathers. Subverse loyalty 2. We're getting awfully chummy, so I guess you deserve a story. My mother kept a messenger bird, Witterbeak. He was an angry old bastard, spoiled from living the high life. Squawked at my window every single night. I pecked my fingers while I fed him only the fattest, juiciest mice. And when I left the farm to join the Scarlet Chorus, I wrung that ungrateful little jerk like a dish rag, plucked his feathers, and gave his carcass to the mice. It felt like justice. She slides a crimson feather from her hair and spins it in her fingers. I also like how the feathers catch the breeze. Helps me keep my balance, especially when I'm moving fast. She slips a feather among the others and smooths it back. Right, you learned a thing or two about fighting in the Scarlet Chorus. Care to duel? Whoops.
That would be an understatement, and I thought you'd never ask. Since you're obviously at a huge disadvantage, I'll let you pick our weapon of choice.
Uh-oh, I'm not good with bows or knives, but let's try dual-wielding knives.
Exotic. Good choice. I'll leave you to guess which one is my dominant hand.
Verse slashes and parries. I'm a dual-wielding one up. Cool. Verse slashes and parries with unrestrained ferocity. At times it becomes difficult to follow her movements. After taking more than a few cuts, you learn to relax your eyes and better follow the subtle motion of her dance.
You held your own. Call me impressed. Need anything else, or did I tire you out?
Alright, hey, we finally... Whew! So I unlocked a loyalty thing. Oh, where's it at? Let's look at my loyalty first. So my favor with the Scarlet Chorus is disfavored is a little better. Venturing Guard is not doing well because we've been slaughtering them this whole time. Doing good with Verse, so we unlocked Death from Above. It's another combo ability. Launch Verse into the air, allowing her to unleash a series of well-aimed arrows into the target from above. Each of these arrows strikes true and has armor penetration. Okay, that's neat. Even with Favor and Wrath with Graven Ash, and nothing with the Voice of Narat yet. Cool. Well, that was something, right?
Don't we have a war to fight?
Alright, let's go get this chest real fast. There was so much talk. I didn't expect that much conversating with my companion. Also, there was a tooltip that said when you're in scouting mode, you get it's easier for you to spot hidden objects. I had to look up what scouting mode is. Scouting mode is just stealth mode. Alright, the wall has begun to crumble, creating handholds suitable for climbing. Use the holes in the wall to climb it.
Can't do that.
She can't
Just
do
point
that?
me in the right direction. Not happening.
Alright, we'll keep track of that. Disappointed that she doesn't have this subterfuge needed for that. What is she at? She needs 2 more. Well, darn. Okay. Well, I was hoping to get talk to Aurora and Verse, and then we were going to go to the western side here and clear out the rest of this map, but that didn't happen. So I think next time we'll just continue conversing with the people in this, what is this place called? The Edgering Ruins. I didn't expect that to take that long, but it's worth it. It's good to know the people you're going to be traveling throughout the game with, so. I'm glad that I did it. But I'm going to call the episode here, and the next one... Actually, there's one more thing I wanted to test, because... Let me talk to her again.
At your service, Fatebinder.
Cool, so their portrait updates, depending on what they're wearing. That's really cool. I really, really like that. You don't see that a lot in games. I think Dragon Age Origins kind of did it, but you don't see like the full profile. You just see like the head. And I can't think of another game off the top of my head that does it. But I really like when games do that. And at your service, Fatebinder. First bows with an added flourish.
What do you need?
Alright, cool. Well, I'm going to call the episode here. In the next one, we will get more done, hopefully. We'll talk to these people and finish clearing out this map, because we have stuff to do. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.